Howdy folks, welcome back to Boondockery. Today I'm going to be talking with you about survival books, and I have a few recommendations for you. Now, just in case you haven't noticed, this world, well, it's been getting just a little bit
crazy. It's insane. It's upside down. It's inside out. It's absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, it is. And with the rising degree of uncertainty in our world today, a lot of people have been turning to YouTube. They have been turning to survival schools. They have been turning to articles, blogs online, all kinds of different avenues to sort of get a little bit more prepared for these uncertain times. And the most difficult thing about preparing for uncertain times is you don't know exactly what to prepare for. And as a result, if you're using your noodle, you're going to make a lot of different preparations in a lot of different ways. But over the past several years, print has pretty much fallen out of favor. And I find that disconcerting. There are a lot of you out there that, are watching this, that you have libraries full of books in your home. And God bless you, I praise you for that. That's a very wise thing. But there's a lot of people out there that they rely heavily on electronics to store all of this information that they've been gathering. I know people that have every single military manual ever printed on PDF files. They actually have it stored on their phones. There's all kinds of people that have saved on their favorites, all kinds of different websites. There's a lot of people that have videos that they save to watch later. And they're all great information, except they're flawed in one way. And that is that they absolutely 100% depend upon electricity in order for you to use them. And uncertain times, folks, uncertain times. And you may be one of those folks, well, I don't care about that. I've got solar panels, I've got battery cells, I've got this, that, and the other thing. Well, what happens if you don't? If for whatever reason you don't have those? That is a very real possibility. No matter how good your preps are, that is a possibility. Now, a book, I can take a book anywhere that I go. If it's stormy, if it's snowing, it doesn't matter. I just pop it in a Ziploc bag, put it in a subcompartmental waterproof bag in my backpack, which is usually covered with a waterproof pack cover. And, it might add a little bit of weight compared to a little micro SD card, but I know I'm going to be able to read it wherever I am, whenever I want to. And I have the information available. Now, before I go any further, I want to let you know that a book is nothing more than a decoration on your bookshelf if you don't read it. And you don't just read it. You read it. You take notes on the side of the page where there's a little white space. You write down things. You dog ear certain things. You put pieces of paper in there for things for you to go back to and really reread those things. You might want to reread it twice. It doesn't matter. And then, once you have done all of that reading, you want to practice what you've learned. You want to get out and use it. Because if you don't turn those words into practice, all you have are words and you can forget words. When you practice these skills, you have to do them fairly regularly, because if you don't use it, you will lose it. And I guarantee you, if you briefly scanned a chapter on a particular situation and you find yourself in that situation, your state of mind, your state of your physical being with the adrenaline pumping through it is going to prevent you from remembering what you just skimmed through. So before we get into really looking at some of these books and talking more about it, keep that in mind. Books, I think, are the way to go if you are going to really rely on the information therein. There's absolutely nothing wrong with supplementing those books with YouTube videos, Rumble videos, PDFs, blogs, what do you call them, message boards on survival groups, conversations with real human beings. All of those things, those are great. But a lot of those things you can't rely on. Like, if you know things are going to get really bad and you have sort of a plan, but you know your best buddy is uber prepared. He can do anything, absolutely anything. And you don't make the effort to increase your skills and increase your knowledge, and it hits the fan, and your buddy's not there. What do? All of a sudden it starts getting real, doesn't it? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a look at these books. We'll talk a little bit more about them. And here toward the end of the video, I'm going to give you my recommendations of what I feel of the books that I own are the ones that I recommend all the time to people to pick up. And I'm just going to share those with you. And then I've got a little bit more stuff to talk about at the end of that. But those of you that need the information about the books, things like that, you just want my recommendations, you can go ahead and cut it off right there. Enjoy your day. If you think these are books you want to pick up, I'm going to provide links for you down in the description box. Order them. You'll be great. Those of you that don't like a little more backstory or a little more long-windedness, and you want to come along for the ride, come along for the conversation, you're certainly welcome, because I have a few extra things to share. If by any chance you've actually been going to the bookstores, looking online, and actually searching for any survival books, survival manuals, you're going to notice that there are a lot of them. And if you are a novice to all of this, you're just beginning, you're just getting into, your eyes are finally starting to open and realize that, you know, this information might be very important. Prayerfully, it won't ever be needed, but I wouldn't count on that. And you have no clue where to start. You know, a lot of folks, they'll see people on TV, and they think, well, they're on TV, they're a survival expert. Their books have got to be absolutely fantastic. Well, you know, for some people they might be. But you know what you key into with a book. Me personally, like this reprinted and recovered U.S. Armed Forces Survival Manual, you know, there's a lot of good information in there. But if you weren't in the military and past your leisure time in the evenings once you got off work, just reading military manuals for your own personal enjoyment, this is painful, absolutely painful to read. Another thing I found about military manuals is that a lot of times they will reference items of equipment that are military issue. So as you're going through these, if this is the route you want to go, you're going to need to make a checklist. And depending upon the date these things were published, you might need to go get some vintage gear. But for me personally, no, I can't do this. I need to have a book that, first and foremost, is by an author that has decades of experience. I want a book written by an individual that is known not to be an egotist. I want a book that is, when I read it, it feels like I'm having a conversation with the person that's actually writing it. And that makes it real to me. And I retain what I read much better. Oh, I should have brought my permethrin. No, the flies are ridiculous today. But on top of that, the content needs to be coherent and topical for what I need. If you have a general survival book, well, how general is it? Are you looking toward wilderness survival? Are you looking toward urban and suburban survival? Are you just looking for a survival book that is basically a get-home book that's going to give you the information that you need to get from work back to home in the event of civil unrest or something like that? You need to narrow down your personal criteria of the book that you want to start with. On top of all that, I want very clear, good illustrations. I prefer photographs. A beautifully drawn illustration is wonderful. However, a photograph with real hands manipulating real things are going to instill themselves in your mind much more effectively than a black and white drawing. And I'm an artist. I love doing illustrations, but I also know that when it comes to things like this, I want to have photographs. Very clear, easy to understand photographs that perfectly illustrate step by step whatever it is they're illustrating. Other than that, I mean, what else do you need? One thing you might consider as well, the quality of the book, the actual physical quality of the book. Is it well bound? Is this thing going to stand up to being able to be taken wherever it is that you need to go with it and surviving itself? I have seen books that are, as a matter of fact, I have a few here, that the covers, the way they're designed is very robust. I'll show you a couple of those here in just a minute as examples of everything I'm going over. And the print. Do you wear glasses? Do you need glasses to read? If so, what happens if you don't have your glasses? Are the texts in the books large enough for you to read without glasses? No, those are all things to consider when you're thinking about the books. So, let's take a closer look at just a few. Now, this is just literally what I could throw in my backpack and bring to the woods. I have a lot more, and I also made sure I wanted to hand select a few for my recommendations. Let's take a look at the ones that I think are made pretty well. Now, here are a few books that are actually manufactured superbly. The binding is very good. It has a very heavy duty cover. The stock of paper that the book is made of is pretty heavy duty. This is a decent general purpose survival book. This is nothing specific. This is a potpourri type survival book. I enjoy reading it. It's made really, really well, and I especially appreciate the huge amount of actual photographs that is throughout. It's very organized, it's very concise. There's not a lot of fluff in here. However, there are a lot of little side things like recipes, things like that they'll put in a little section at the bottom of the page. It's like a side note. And, you know, as far as a general survival book goes, this is superior. This book here by Outdoor Life. This is also made incredibly well. The binding is superb. There's actual metal tips to protect the corners of the book. This is more of a specialized kind of book. It was an interesting read, and the situations that they go over are actually more realistic than what you may think with a lot of the other survival books out there. And there is a good blend of actual photographs and very well done illustrations. And it's sequential in that you can read one of the tips, and if you want to, you can go and try your hand at practicing or utilizing the information physically, and then going on to the next one. You can make it like a checklist. You could do one a day. There's 338 essential skills, and you could make that as like your 1 year prep, just using this one book, in addition to whatever else that you would want to supplement it with. Here's another book. I don't particularly care for the ultra simplicity of this particular book, but it is made very well. It has a gummed spine, which I'm not a real big fan of, but the pages are extremely heavy duty. And I looked on the exterior, looked on the interior, and it did not say that these were waterproof pages, but these feel exactly like the waterproof pages that is in my waterproof New Testament. And it is very, very well put together. This one, they use incredibly small amounts of written information and rely heavily upon illustrations. This reminds me of a survival book version of the little pamphlet that you get on airplanes that show you how to put your seatbelt on, how to put your oxygen mask on, and what to do in the event that your plane lands in the water. But the information is good. It's just this right here is for the short attention span theater folks that don't really get into reading at all, and you just want the information. Practically every other book I own is your standard classic paperback. Very basic gum binding, very basic cover stock, and very basic paper stock. If by any chance you find one of these books that you really, really like, and you think this is just an awesome book, my recommendation is to do what I do, and I order a second one. And because if you are actually using this, you are actually taking this out into the areas that you're going to be practicing these skills, these are going to get worn out very quickly. And as opposed to carrying around a bunch of loose papers in a big manila envelope, it's nice to be able to have one that is your field copy, to where you don't care that much if it does get a little used and abused, and you'll have another one that you're going to be able to loan out. You're going to be able to sit at home and read through it without getting soot from the campfire and things like that on you while you're reading it. Word on loaning books. If you think a book is worth having and you're in a financial position of doing it, don't loan your book. If it's the only one you have, don't loan it. Purchase one for that person if you truly believe in that book. I've had way too many books loaned that never returned, and one of which it breaks my heart, because They are as scarce as hen's teeth, and if you can find one, I'm going to be having to pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for it. Now, on to what everyone's been waiting for, my recommendations. Now, the books I have, they're very few compared to the number of books that I have, and I have a lot of really great general purpose survival books. And I could probably spend one video on each one of them, going through the pros and the cons of them, doing formal reviews. But I'm just going to cut straight to the meat of the matter and tell you the ones that I would recommend and why I would recommend them. The first two books are both written by Cody Lundin, and the thing that I love most about Cody's books is the manner in which they are written. It's very conversational type of writing. It's, you don't have to look up words in a dictionary or I guess now you Google them when you're reading it. It has a very good flow to the way things are organized and the transitions from one topic to the next. And you're going to go through many chapters very rapidly because of that fantastic way in which Cody writes. The other thing I love about Cody's books is the fact that he is not coming from a military background. He is not coming from a tracker, professional hunting guide, backwoodsman background. Not anywhere close to that. However, he's coming from a background to where a lot of other people can much more readily relate to. And much of the things that he talks about in these books are things that you will recognize, things that will be readily available for you. And Cody pretty much cuts it mean and lean. You don't have to go buy thousands of dollars worth of survival equipment in order to utilize the information that's in his books. If you can find an empty plastic water bottle, that is one item that he uses a lot in these books. The two books, first of all, is, this was actually his first book, 98.6 Degrees, The Art of Keeping Your Arse Alive. And this was the first one of his books that I read. It's absolutely fantastic. He has a combination of, very nice, whimsical illustrations combined with a center section of actual photographs. And that's nice. This is a fairly quick read, but the information contained therein is absolutely fantastic. He expands upon this tremendously in his next book, When All Hell Breaks Loose. Now, this could come in real handy in the event that things go very far south. There's information in this book that had things gone on a little while longer, progressed further, expanded more. Some of the civil unrest, which happened a couple years ago in Oregon and a couple of the other places, this book addresses a lot of that, in addition to living post-traumatic event, as far as, okay, the crap did hit the fan, and we're alive, but we're running in like second and third week now, and it doesn't look like the cavalry's on the way. What are we going to do? This book delves into that, and this is a long-term survival book. And again, his writing is fantastic. I enjoy the manner in which he writes. It's pretty much set up in the same way. There are some whimsical illustrations and some more actual good photography in the center. And that does a couple things. It keeps the price of the book down, and literally the manner in which he writes requires very little illustration in order to have an individual visualize with their mind what he's referring to and what he's talking about. The few illustrations he has in here are for a specific point, to where he personally felt that he wasn't getting the point across with the way he wrote it, so he used illustrations to provide that information. Next, I have 2 books written by John McCann. John McCann is an individual I had the blessing to be able to meet and can talk with and actually work with at a couple of Dave Canterbury's Pathfinder gatherings, and I really enjoyed his down-to-earth nature, his practicality, and his decades of experience. He was prior military, so he has that military mindset, and I click with that. I was former military myself, and I can respect and appreciate the very direct, matter-of-fact manner in which he teaches his classes, and also in which he writes his books. And the first book is Stay Alive, Survival Skills You Need. This covers both wilderness survival skills and touches a little bit more on survival skills that you would be needing in more of a suburban or a rural living situation. And it's very well illustrated throughout. Let's just get through here. Actual real photographs, real illustrations, and at time to times he has little inserts to where he pushes a specific event, shares a particular experience, and I find that to be entertaining as well as informative. And you know, when you're reading a book, I mean, even if it's a book that's going to help you survive the apocalypse, I mean, you don't have to be in a constant state of doom and gloom while you're reading it. And I think he does a great job with sharing his experiences in here in a very brief way, and also providing you all the information that you need for basic survival skills. And he puts his own take on things. You know, when I first learned to make a fire with flint and steel, I learned to do so out of a book. And the book was written by an individual that after I attempted to make a flint and steel fire the way they described in the book, no illustrations, mind you, I began to wonder if this individual ever actually made a fire with flint and steel. Now, after I figured it out and I got good at it, I also realized that I started to change things and the manner in which I made flint and steel fires. So I made it my own. And so John has a lot of things that he streamlines, and he does things in a little bit different way than you may have seen done before. A next fantastic companion book to his first book is Build the Perfect Survival Kit. It doesn't matter what kind of a survival kit you want to build. It doesn't matter whether it's a bug out bag, it's a field first aid kit that you're going to be taking hunting with you, it's a get home bag, it's, you name it. He covers it in this book, and with great detail. He provides supply lists, checklists, any of those things that you really logically need in order to put these things together. And all of it is in one book. And again, his illustrations, very straightforward. His writing style is very matter of fact, easy read. And I love it. I absolutely love it. There are a lot of bug out bag books, all kinds of stuff on the internet, and I own 2 or 3. And but this is by far the best. And it doesn't matter if you're going to be out in the wilderness or you're trying to get home from work at your inner city office building. He's got a kit in here that you can make to make that happen. Now, the next book I'm going to recommend to you, in my humble opinion, is probably the most difficult book to read. And it's not because of the manner in which it's written. It's because of the information contained therein. This is a very serious, down-to-earth, sequential book about developing a survival group and the reality of that survival group functioning in a survival situation. There it is, the Survival Group Handbook. This was actually written by my one of two best friends in the United States Army, Charlie Hogwood. And he has decades of preparedness experience. He was military National Guard, and he, I forget, it was Hurricane Andrew, I believe it was, that his National Guard unit was on patrol in. He did everything. Well, from that, he started building upon the very obvious needs that municipalities, cities, families, communities need to have in order to be prepared and how to deal with these types of events. And then he expanded that to all kinds of different events. He's talked all over the United States, from mega huge cities all the way to small communities, and to help them get their preparedness in line. And this was way before the Department of Homeland Security. He was doing this way before that even was a thing. And as a matter of fact, he has actually taught classes to multiple groups of departments of Homeland Security. And the difficult thing about this book, I mean, this is a fantastic book. I mean, there's checklists, there's all kinds, there's Q&A, there's definite, you name it. Everything that you actually really seriously need to know to seriously develop a survival group is in here. And you go through, you're reading, and all of a sudden, the reality of this potential situation smacks you right smack in the head. And you're like, oh, I guess I am going to have to possibly make those decisions. That's some serious stuff there, folks. What are you going to do when you got everything perfect? You have your family, and then someone needs help. A family comes to your door, and they have no place to go, they have no food. What are you going to do? What if a group of marauders comes to take your stuff? What are you going to do? That's serious stuff. This isn't like the prepping thing where you're storing up, you're organizing, everything's fantastic. I mean, that's part of it. That's definitely part of it. But what are you going to do when someone tries to take it from you? What are you going to do when all of a sudden you realize that what you have is what you have, and that's all you have, and you've planned to have just the right amount for your group, your family, and all of a sudden there's a lot of other people that need that too. What are you going to do? That's rough. I'm telling you, I had a hard time getting through that section of the book because I didn't just visualize it in my mind. I felt it in my heart. And wow, I'm telling you, it's rough. Because if it ever gets to that point, humanity, kindness, compassion, charity, by that point, those might not exist. It's going to be up to you to keep those things alive in the manner in which you can. But this is probably the only survival book that I've ever read that went into that facet of a survival situation, long-term survival situation, that really addresses it, and it does so masterfully. Now, the next book I absolutely adore. This is now, hands down, my favorite survival book. And is it the most complete? Maybe not. Is it the best illustrated? Maybe not. But what it is an absolutely phenomenal survival book that will take you from wilderness survival to suburban survival. It goes from survival skills to prepping, preparedness, and that is a huge, huge part of survival, especially long-term survival. And if that's all it was, this would be a masterfully made book. The writing's fantastic. It's an easy read. It's that kind of read I was telling you. It's conversational. It's like, having a conversation with the writer. And, it's just fantastic on its own. However, this book does something that no other book that I've ever bought related to survival skills has ever done. And that has put this book at the top of my list because Dr. Jason Hunt has not only made an absolutely masterful survival manual, but in every instance, he has also included biblical reference and justification for all of the things that he has in this book. Now, I know there's some of you out there, you're not of faith. I mean, some of you may actually be atheists. I mean, that's between you and the Almighty. I'm not here to judge. I'm not a judger. And well, look at I take Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s words to heart. I judge a man by the quality of his character and nothing else. But I pray for everyone. Now, Dr. Hunt, the way he put this together is fantastic because I know a lot of Christians that wrongfully project the concept and idea, and they have this in their head that I don't have to prepare for anything. I don't have to do any of that. I pray. I was like, God's going to take care of me. And it's like, well, you know what? Throughout the Bible, God let everyone know when things were going to get bad simply by things getting bad. And if you didn't take the responsibility to prepare for the worst and pray for the best, then you're not getting it. You're not getting it. I have Christian friends that sort of like put the whole idea of defense and personal protection out of their head. They prep, they save up, they store, they do all these things, they homestead, but they don't get the importance of the actual defense and protection aspect of it. They have separated themselves with their Christianity as their excuse from dealing with those issues and planning for those events. Dr. Hunt, an incredible man. He has a survival school in Kentucky, Bethlehem, Kentucky. I'll put all that information down in the comment section below. And therefore, if you want to contact Dr. Hunt and possibly take some of his classes, it'd definitely be well worth your time. And the area of Bethlehem, Kentucky is absolutely gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. It would be well worth it. But I'll put all that information in the comment section below. Now, the last book, and I believe it's probably the most important book that I would recommend for survival. And that's not just survival when the crap hits the fan. That's survival through every single day of your life. And that is the Holy Bible. And this particular one, I believe it's the New King James Version. Whatever version you prefer reading, like my father, I mean, he can't read anything but the King James Version. I personally couldn't do it. I could not get through it. So I went to the New Interpretive Version, and then I switched from that to the New King James. I've read this particular Bible twice, and working on my third time. And it's, very well organized in other information. This one happens to be the American Patriot Bible. It cites examples of how our leaders and how patriots throughout American history have relied upon God, how they've invoked the Word of God in order to get them through life, how they have improved our country, how they created our country through the Word of God. And those things are through here too, and I love it. There's just all kinds of nice little extra things that you read through, which, a lot of Bibles don't do anything like that. You get the scripture, and that's all there is to it. Survival. It's not about stuff. It's not about, what you know. It's about, the end result. I mean, let's say the crap hits the fan. I mean, it's horrible. Let's say the limited nuclear exchange. Parts of the world are inhabitable. Other parts are absolutely desolate. Do you really want to survive, just survive, in a world like that? I'm not being facetious. I mean, that's a soul-searching question that I'd like for you to ask yourself. What's the point? What's the point? Now, for me, the point is my connection to God and my Christian faith, because I believe that that's not the way things are going to end. I believe that He will help me, that I have something more important to live for. I mean, what's the point if, when it's all said and done, I run out of food, I starve to death, and in my mind, I'm nothing but worm dirt? That's that's my way of thinking. And I've had a pretty rough journey, and the only thing that I've discovered in my life that puts all of it in order, puts it all into perspective, and has taken every obstacle I've ever had and turned it into an opportunity, it's all because of my faith. And the scripture helps me stay connected to that. And that is why it's my favorite survival book. Well, folks, there you have it. My personal recommendations of survival books. Well, folks, there you have it. My recommendations for survival books. If you got what you need, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. If you want to stick around for a few more minutes, I got a couple more things I want to share with you. Please do. It won't take long. Well, folks, if you're still with me, God bless you. You must be a glutton for punishment. But actually, I do want to share a few things, and oftentimes my videos are often negatively criticized because of the undue backstories and all those kinds of things that I talk about as side notes and things I personally think are important. But, some people, they just want the meat of the matter and be gone. And that's perfectly fine. To each their own. We all have our own way of doing things. And if that's the way that you do it, that's perfectly fine. But for those of you that want a little more information, that's what I'm here to talk about today. Now, over the past several months, I have made several videos. I've shot several videos. I've edited several videos, basically concerning the state of not just our country, but the world. And I personally think things are going horribly, horribly wrong. And the complete and utter lack of our officials even mentioning them as being an issue is mind-boggling to me. We're being force-fed clickbait type of things. It's like, well, all of the things that are being thrown at us to distract us, to get us to fight amongst ourselves, to argue about things that do not matter. Is it a moral thing? Well, that's up to you. But does it really matter? Is it going to change the course of our country? If it is, then that's important. But if it's not, put it aside. Focus on the real issues, like all of our food processing plants that have been destroyed. Never in the history of the United States have we lost that many food processing plants as we have in the past year, combined. I mean, you're even looking at earthquakes and citywide fires and things like that included in that ratio as well. No, these things are unique events that are adding up. That is something to be concerned about. But for multiple reasons, I did not post those. And predominantly, there are a lot of other people that are posting all of that information, making videos available to you about that information that, quite frankly, do a much better job at it than I did. And they need to be watched. And I'm going to put links to their YouTube channels down in the description box for you to be able to check them out yourself. And if you've stuck with me through this point, I would say that most of you already watch them because I think you're that kind of person. Also, my favorite survival book is, of course, the Holy Bible, but my next favorite was Dr. Jason Hunt's Gospel of Survival. And at the old school survival boot camp that I presented at this past summer. And if you've not looked into the old school survival boot camp, please do. Please look into it because it's the only survival related event that I'm aware of that covers the full spectrum of survival. Prepping, homesteading, defense, security, bug out, you name it. They cover it all. And if you truly are of a survival mindset, you have to be thinking of that big picture. All of it. The homesteading, the prepping, all of it. You have to be considering all of it. And it doesn't matter if you live in town, you have an apartment. It does not matter. You have to find a way to instill those practices into your life and to develop a plan that's going to help you escape and survive, hold in place and survive, whatever your situation may dictate. Now, when I was at the event, I purchased several of Dr. Hunt's books, and it was an amazing book. And I think I purchased 10, and I had them on my table in my booth and sold all of them at the cost of my purchase, not including tax, not including shipping, because I felt it was important for people to get those books. I thought it was important, and that was the number that I could afford to purchase, and I did recoup some of my money, and which is neither here nor there. That's not the important thing. The important thing is I was sharing those books, and with people that actually needed them as well as wanted them, and that was very important to me. Now, just out of the blue, I just decided, well, you know what? I'm going to write Dr. Hunt. I'm going to tell him about what I did, because I think that it's important for him to know that people out here that he may never see, never meet, never hear from, think that what he did with that book was important. It wasn't just a good survival book. It's an excellent survival book, but the biblical references put it over the top. And it doesn't matter for me how much I have stored. It doesn't matter to me how tight my security measures are, how good my self-defense abilities are, how excellent my gardening and homesteading has gone. If I don't have that root in Jesus, then it's not complete. It's not a complete plan. It's all got to be there, and that book did it. Well, he replied back and told me he really appreciated what I did, and he appreciated my kind words, and he sent me a box of books. And since I've received those, I felt that I have been led to give those particular people, to send those out. There's been a couple people that I've communicated with through YouTube via my YouTube email that requested patches, and through that course of the conversation I felt led to go ahead and include one of those books and sent those out. And I have particular individuals that I know that are very dear to my heart, that I know would deeply appreciate, so I shared those with them too. And what I want to do is I want to give 6 of those books to you guys. And since I only have 6, it's got to be sort of like a random draw type of thing to get those out there. But I feel with prayer, the right people are going to get them that really need them. And so what I want you to do, if you're interested in receiving one of Dr. Hunt's books, I'll show it to you real quick. It's this one right here. If you're interested in possibly receiving one of these, what I want you to do in the description box is just, or the comments, excuse me, in the comments, just type in, "God bless Jason Hunt." Just type that in. That way I know that you are the ones that want to receive this. And it would do my heart good to see the right people get these, the folks that really need them. And I feel that with the right amount of prayer, the right people will. But that's just where my heart's been led to take this, and this is what I'm going to do. In order to have enough folks be able to see this and potentially be able to be a part of the drawing, I'm going to go ahead and make my drawing a month from the day that this video is published. So keep your eyes open. Well, folks, if you stuck with me through the whole thing, you endured probably a lot more talking than what you wanted to hear, but I appreciate the fact that you did stick with me. And I want to tell you all how much I appreciate you, how much I thoroughly enjoy the comments and to be able to communicate with you the way I do. And I just appreciate your support and the kind words that you've shared with me throughout the past couple years. It means a lot to me. Well, folks, as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.